There are new questions tonight whether a major warning sign was missed for the man now charged with 8 murders in Sumner County. Chief investigative reporter Jeremy Finley obtained pages from the internal probation file for Michael Cummins. Jeremy, what does it show?
Well, Tom, it zeroes in on what happened 2 weeks before the murders. Turns out a probation officer came to see Cummins where he lived with multiple family members. What these records show is that something very troubling occurred that day, but no probation warrant was taken out. It's April 10th, and internal probation records obtained by the I-Team show a probation officer does a surprise home visit on Michael Cummins. He's on probation after a series of criminal acts, including attacking family members and trying to burn down his neighbor's home. The records read Cummins' grandmother says he's asleep, but then advises that Cummins ran out the back door and into the woods. The officer writes it is unknown why he would have run at that time. The officer then returns 45 minutes later. Cummins is still hiding in the woods. That probation officer then leaves. 7 days later, investigators believe Cummins began his murder spree that ended with 8 people, mostly family members, dead. When you hear someone has run into the woods, isn't that a major red flag?
The officers did ask the family members about the offender running into the woods, and the family members indicated that this was normal behavior for the offender, that he often spent time in the woods.
The Assistant Commissioner for Community Supervision says after Cummins ran that day, they confirmed there was no warrant out for his arrest, and that a probation officer later reached Cummins by phone and scheduled for him to come into the probation office. Even when Cummins didn't show for that meeting, records show it was still 16 days before his probation officer filed for a violation warrant. That next day is when the bodies of Cummins' relatives began to be discovered. Do you feel, in reviewing how this case was handled, that any mistakes were made?
So the officer was within policy and how he proceeded. And of course, whenever we have an incident like this, we look at our policies and procedures to make sure that we are utilizing best practices across the board.
The Department of Corrections said it's important to point out that their probation officers do not chase after suspects who run. And if that day Cummins hid on the woods, if there was any indication that he was in an immediate danger to his family, then they say they would have called for assistance from sheriff's deputies.